Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of SEScoops, and today I'm joined by your Impact World Champion, the walking weapon, Josh Alexander. Josh, how are you doing today?
I am doing good, and it's always good to talk about pro wrestling, especially Impact Wrestling. So I'm happy to be here.
I know it's been a fantastic year for you. I mean, you've made your return to Impact Wrestling, and ahead of your Impact World Championship title defense, we're here to talk all about Slammiversary coming up on Sunday, June 19th in Nashville, Tennessee. But before we get to the match itself, I mean, how are you feeling about Impact's return to Nashville and the potential of this crowd, not only for Slammiversary, but for Slammiversary Fallout as well on June 20th?
Well, I'm just psyched to be back here. We spent a lot of time in Nashville during like the whole pandemic era and tapings and stuff, so I'm very familiar with the city. And then we had some crowds here before we ended up venturing out, starting at Bound for Glory last year. But we've been on the road like crazy, and it's different coming back and being able to wrestle on the Nashville Fairgrounds. Maybe not the same venue because they tore it down and built a new venue there, but to wrestle on the same like hollowed ground where all these people that inspired me to become a pro wrestler made their names in the Asylum era of TNA, like it's coming full circle. And for me to do it as champion, it's even sweeter.
And I mean, Nashville has a special place in your career as well. I mean, winning the Impact World Tag Team Championships, the X Division Championships, for example. And so for you, I mean, can you share some of your favorite memories in the city rich of Impact history of Nashville, Tennessee, whether inside or outside of the ring?
Outside, I'm pretty boring. It's pretty easy. I go to like personally owned gyms that aren't chains, and that's kind of what I do in every city. And I found my favorite gym in probably the entire world so far, right here in Nashville. It's called Gym 5. There's a little plug for free for them. But yeah, like you said, I've had a lot of success within Impact Wrestling right here in Nashville. I've won pretty much every championship I've had here. I've become Triple Crown champion in Nashville. But yeah, I would say like my fondest memory would be the Ironman match with TJP that we did in front of no crowd, because Ironman matches don't come along on television that often, and I knew it was a huge opportunity for me to not only set myself apart but kind of put the company on the map and show them what I could do with the in the ring. And the chemistry I have with TJP is like something that doesn't come along very often in wrestling. So I was very excited and happy for that opportunity, and then we exceeded our own expectations with it. So
It was an absolutely incredible match between you two, especially in front of no crowd. I mean, that's an even bigger task itself. And I mean, we're talking about Nashville too. I mean, Impact is returning to Nashville. The company will also be celebrating its 20-year anniversary, which is absolutely incredible. So, I mean, outside of your own body of work, of course, in Impact, was there any moment in the last 20 years in Impact that genuinely popped you?
Oh, well, I always say my favorite moment, like the most iconic moment that I can think of, was when Kurt Angle headbutted Samoa Joe, and then Samoa Joe rose up behind him with his
Mhm.
head bleeding, and that just like kicked off their feud. But like the one thing, well, like Ellie Skipper doing the run off the top of the cage, that made me jump off my sofa. But the one thing that really sticks out when you first said that was uh, what was it? Gail Kim took a cutter off of the entrance ramp, and the way it was shot, it looked like she was just falling into oblivion, like she
Mhm.
fell off the edge of the planet. And I remember standing up and like, oh my god, she's dead. And then the camera cuts to just find the wreckage at the bottom beside the ring. Yeah, that was one of the most memorable moments to me.
There's been so many incredible moments in Impact Wrestling. And I mean, I think it's really cool too that 15-year-old you actually ordered and watched the very first Impact event way back in 2002. So, I mean, how surreal is it for you to kind of have this full circle moment to not only represent Impact now, but walk into Slammiversary as the world champion?
I actually was wrestling with my friend Isaac from high school on my trampoline right before he ran inside to order the very first pay-per-view. And I had dinner with him maybe a month ago, and I was talking to him about how I just had to stop and pinch myself, because like not only did I never think this was possible, he certainly never thought it was possible back then, that like this is where my life would have taken me. And I'm just like, I'm so blessed and privileged that I'm able to like do what I love, because like this isn't work to me, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's fun. I mean, you're in the environment of the impact zone, and it's such a cool full circle moment. And I mean, looking back at 15-year-old you on that trampoline and then watching Impact Wrestling for the first time, or I mean, TNA, Total Nonstop Action, it's had a couple name changes. Who are some talent initially that really caught your eye or you felt captivated by particularly?
The very first episode, I remember the first match was Jerry Lynn, AJ Styles, and Low Key against the
Mhm.
Flying Elvises. And I say it so often that like when I saw Low Key and AJ Styles for the first time, just in that like 6.5 minute match they had, they completely blew my mind and like just showed me this completely alternate style of pro wrestling that I ever thought possible. And that was really what like got my wheels turning about maybe getting involved with this myself and like wanting to be a part of this business and pursue it as a dream. But yeah, like those two guys right off the bat, the entire X division is one of the most innovative things. I think it's changed the business across the entire world landscape. Like right now, it's all inspired by the stuff that those guys did between 2002 and 2010. And then the Knockouts division, especially like just seeing what they did like in 2007 when it really picked up steam with Awesome Kong, Gail Kim, Tara, Mickey James, all these other people. It was just it was something like you never saw before. You were used to bra and panties matches. You're seeing kick-ass wrestling coming out of the ladies. Like it's carried forth to today, where our entire knockouts division was pretty much inspired by what those knockouts did back then.
And I mean, the knockouts are making history at Slammiversary too, with the first ever Queen of the Mountain match. We've seen King of the Mountain matches before in the past, but now it's elevated more for the knockouts division. So, how is that for you as a part of this locker room to see those ladies make history once again?
I'm pumped. Like we got to see them make history at Hard to Kill when there was the
Hmm.
very first women's Ultimate X match, and I'm going to tell you a little peek behind the curtain. It was a curtain sellout, as we say. The entire locker room was at the monitors, just like on the edge of our seats, just watching history be made. We're gonna do the same thing at Slammiversary because I know all the ladies in that match. They're all former Knockouts champions themselves. I think Tasha Steele is amazing. She's one of my favorites to watch. I think she's so entertaining and so good. And she's doing everything. She's getting everything she deserves right now. But everyone in that match is a former Knockouts champion themselves, and I think they have a really strong chance of stealing the show.
And I mean, it was just announced, literally breaking news, the time of recording this. Mickey James is going to be the special guest enforcer. I think that adds a whole other layer of intrigue and unpredictability to this high stakes matchup.
Yeah, and I think Slammiversary as a whole, especially since 2 years ago, we've really established that Slammiversary is just the show of
Mhm.
unpredictability, and you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to show up, and I think this year is going to be ramped up a little bit more with the nostalgia factor, celebrating the first 20 years of Impact Wrestling.
I know we've seen so many surprises last year. I mean, last year, Deonna Purrazzo had a mystery opponent in Thunder Rosa. Then Mickey James shows up. For you, what has been the biggest shock to you, or surprise return, or just shock value for you that you've either been a part of or watched in Impact?
That's a tough question. I was certainly like shocked when the Good Brothers showed up. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Coming off their run in New Japan and WWE and stuff like that. That was a really big get for us. Uh, Eric Young coming back was another one that happened 2 years ago. That whole show 2 years ago was just a shock for me. But the Motor City Machine Guns was the biggest shock. I never thought I'd see them tag up and return again, but we got it and we still have it.
What a callback. The Motor City Machine Guns looking better than ever. It's amazing to see them because they were a part of the first era I started watching back when it was total nonstop action. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It's interesting that you've never actually faced Eric Young one-on-one before, correct?
Yeah, never had a singles match with them ever.
So, I mean, going into this at Slammiversary, what is your mentality or preparation like heading into a matchup where you're essentially locking up for the first time one-on-one?
Well, I have a little chip on my shoulder with Eric Young where I gotta, it's a little more heated rivalry than it would be for just the Violent by Design and just for the championship and all that stuff. Like that's all in there too. But the little added like spice to it is that when I started in 2005 as a professional wrestler and started training, everybody was talking about the legend of Showtime Eric Young and how he's the greatest wrestler to ever come out of the independent scene in Ontario, Canada, because he had signed with TNA shortly before that. I only heard the legends, and I, of
Mhm.
course, followed his career through TNA and Impact Wrestling, and he's done it all here. He's amazing. I call him the Swiss Army knife of wrestling. He can make you laugh, he can make you cry, he can scare you, and he can have a good match with literally a broomstick. But I took exception to him being known as the best wrestler to come out of Ontario, Canada. And now, I've built that up through my career where now I'm regarded as probably one of the best in Ontario, Canada. So we're actually going to find out once and for all when we face off one-on-one at Slammiversary on Sunday, who the best to come out of Ontario really is.
And I mean, Eric Young might be violent by design, but you are certainly the walking weapon and essentially the face of Impact Wrestling now. So you mentioned that you kind of have this chip on your shoulder now. So how have you adjusted to this new role as basically the face of Impact Wrestling?
I recognize the responsibility that I carry because being champion, being the face of Impact Wrestling, sure, I'm the face of the brand. I'm the one that, has to trumpet and rah for Impact all the time, which is so easy for me because I started as a fan. I love this place. I can rhyme off names left and right and talk about the history of this company all day long, and I enjoy it. But I take the role especially seriously because the respect of my peers matters to me a lot. And I love this locker room. I love the crew. I love everybody here so much. I think we're all, as much as this is a singular pursuit in professional wrestling, I think we all look at this like it's a team. And we all have a chip on our shoulder. We're all the little engine that could try to, fight back and show that we belong and that we are the best. And, to represent them as the face of Impact Wrestling, that's the thing I take most serious.
And I mean, you're clearly ready to take on all challengers as the face of Impact Wrestling. So, I mean, out of the competitors in the locker room that you haven't encountered one-on-one before, Eric Young, for example, who would you love to see step up to the plate, assuming you retain your Impact World Championship at Slammiversary?
I have two names. Okay. I have never had a one-on-one encounter with Eddie Edwards.
Really?
Yes, and I have a great deal of respect for what he can do in the ring. We're not going to talk about him being the leader of Honor No More and whatever that is now. But as far as in-ring competition goes, I've followed Eddie Edwards since he was diehard Eddie Edwards and Noah back in the day. And I think he's amazing. And I think if we locked up, we could do something special. And the second name, once he, works his way up the ladder and comes into contention, I really think that I could make magic and trap a bunch of lightning in a bottle with someone like Mike Bailey.
Oh my God, Speedball Mike Bailey has been popping up everywhere and really impressing a lot of people, especially in Impact Wrestling. Oh my goodness, I can't say enough good words. It's just impressive every time they're out there.
Yeah, he's a natural born talent, once in a million kind of guy, once in a lifetime. He's a generational talent, as they say, and I recognize that. I think everybody else does. And now that he's gotten his visa, he's signed with Impact, and he's in front of the world, everybody's finding out really fast.
And I mean, looking back at the history too of Impact Wrestling and the World Championship specifically, I mean, if you could bring back one former champion to maybe defend your championship against, who would it be and why?
I mean, I could give you one guess, and I think you might be able to guess, because it's like, who is the most synonymous name with TNA or Impact Wrestling?
So there's two actually that I am thinking of right now. And I know it's one of them. It's either AJ Styles or Kurt Angle, I feel like. Or it might be Samoa Joe. I'm probably totally wrong.
Well, you just named my three favorites. And a little Easter egg here. My gear for Slammiversary is very special, and it tips my hat at all three of those people that inspire me to become a pro wrestler. But I would say AJ Styles is the most synonymous name with TNA and Impact Wrestling. He was the face of this brand for 10, 12 years. And I think still to this day, when you think of AJ Styles, you think of the stuff he did in TNA. He was the one that built this company from the get-go. And I would love to get in the ring with him one-on-one.
And I mean, gear-wise, don't give away too much. Do you have a certain color that you can give us a little sneak peek at for your gear?
Oh, well, I've been known for the red and gold and all that stuff. So I will say there's blue involved in this one as well.
Okay. A little homage. I'm excited to see what you come up with as the walking weapon, walking into Slammiversary as the Impact champion. You were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just a little thing. I have not tried on the gear yet. I'm trying it on tomorrow. So if it doesn't fit, you might not see it, but hopefully it fits perfectly. So.
We're praying for you because I'm super excited to see this creation that you have thought of, and especially going into arguably the biggest pay-per-view for Impact Wrestling. I mean, you are the present and the future of Impact Wrestling. And I mean, looking towards the future, Impact Wrestling has had some amazing people recently join their roster, like Speedball Mike Bailey, for example. So if you had the power to sign any current talent to the world of Impact Wrestling, who would you pick and why?
Oh, you put me on the spot right now. Who could I sign? Let me think about this, because like honestly, this time in the landscape of pro wrestling, a lot of people have contracts and already
That's
have
true.
jobs somewhere
That's
else. You know
true.
what I mean? Um, who have I wrestled recently that I've been impressed with so many people, but he might be under contract at MLW, but I think ACH is one of the most talented people I've ever been in the ring with. And I'm actually wrestling him, this weekend at an independent show called AEW. So, he would be the first name that pops up in my head.
Oh, in Chicago.
Hmm.
That's gonna be fun. It's cool too that you've been able to travel to on the independents. You were in ESW, which is one of my local promotions here late last year. So it's been cool to see you. But Josh, before I let you go, I mean, we've talked about Queen of the Mountain. Of course, the X Division title is on the line too, and so many other amazing matches on this Slammiversary card. Is there any other match besides yours that you're particularly looking forward to?
Yeah, the Honor No More against the TNA Impact Originals match. Mainly because I don't know who the two mystery people are yet.
No.
I'm really excited to see who they dig up and who they get from the past, maybe to join that Originals team because, Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, and Frankie Kazarian's a great start. They
Mhm.
represent, the first 20 years very well. And, there's a ton of names out there that could be those last two. I'm just really curious for the surprises.
So if you is assuming that they're eligible to be a part of this, who would you bring back from the past to today? Assuming they're eligible.
Eligible? I mean, James Storm would be a good
Oh,
fit.
mm,
I would automatically just and probably low key or Amazing Red as a alternate. Those are the
okay.
three that I know that are on the independents. They're not currently signed anywhere really. Maybe yeah. Yeah, we'll go with that.
You got my hopes up now. I'm hoping for at least one of those three. There's so many, like we were talking about earlier, there's so many surprises in store, I'm sure, for Slammiversary. So before I let you go, can you please tell the listeners where they can tune into Slammiversary and where they can find you on social media?
You can find me at social media on Twitter and Instagram at walking_weapon and Slammiversary Sunday, June 19th, 2022 at 7:30. The pre-show is free on YouTube and I believe Fight as well. And the pay-per-view kicks off on Fight TV, 8 p.m. Eastern time.
And Josh, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. Anytime.
And of course, don't forget to tune into Impact Wrestling Slammiversary pay-per-view coming up this Sunday, June 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on Fight TV Live, where Josh Alexander will defend his Impact World Championship against Violent by Design, Eric Young. Josh, thank you so much again.
Anytime.